Our second speaker today is the creator and founder of all our precious and timeless heirlooms. I'm delighted to welcome Chupi Sweetman.
Hi Angela, thank you so much.
Hi,
it's a pleasure
Chupi,
to be here. I'm very well. It's a pleasure to be here, although a shame not to be here in person. I always think it's while Zoom is wonderful, there's nothing like being in a room of brilliant women on mornings like this, having a coffee and getting to have those chats afterwards. So hopefully at some point in the future, I'll get to come back and do this with you all in person.
Someday, hopefully, for maybe our second Women in Business event in September.
Exactly, that's the goal. It is. And Angela, I'm trying to flick on my video, but it's not coming on, so I'll continue without it.
Okay.
Oh, wonderful. I'm here.
There, it's actually on now. Come on.
Hi everyone.
Hi,
I do have to apologize in that I sound like I'm sitting in an echo chamber. My husband and I are moving house on Monday. We figured we didn't have enough going on with the fact that we've an 11-month-old, 4 very busy businesses and a pandemic, and we thought it'd be a really good idea to sell our house. So apologies, I'm in such an empty space and it's a bit of an echo. Honestly, we felt just a dab the edge.
Chupi, thanks again for joining us today. I just kind of looking for, I suppose, an insight. So maybe you can kick us off by just talking about Chupi, the successful businesswoman, and then the Chupi behind the brand. So maybe just if you can just share some insight.
Well, it's funny. So my name is actually Chupi. So I always teased my mum that, in fact, I hate it passionately. When I was about 11 or 12, I tried to persuade my best friends to call me Camille, which is my second name, because I so wanted a normal name. And that feeling as a teenager of just wanting to fit in. So I think it's funny that I ended up in building a brand, because of course the name is Chupi. So for those of you who don't know, Chupi is a multi-award winning luxury global brand. We make heirlooms, so the things that mark the biggest moments in your life. This is normally the fun bit where I get to bring out the diamonds, but I'm afraid you'll have to forgive the Zoom. So we make engagement rings, wedding rings, eternities, the ring you get on the day you get divorced, the ring you get for yourself on that big promotion. So the biggest moments in your life. Chupi is nearly 10 years old. We are in 67 countries. We have 63 on the team now, I think, and are growing at a pretty serious rate. We are, though, an overnight success that took 13 years. And I always think that's the important way to couch it, in that the business didn't happen overnight, nothing happens overnight. But the joy of social media is we do look at things like that and think, oh, it was easy. And Dearbhalla, I really enjoyed you talking about the idea of different stages in our careers, because actually for me, Chupi came from that. So I had a quarter life crisis when I was 26. I am 37 now. And at 26, I had the dream job. I worked for Topshop, who back then were cool, I promise. They were very cool. I'd been scouted in university, designed for them, loved it, worked in fast fashion, making beautiful disposable dresses that people wore once and threw away. And at 26, I realized I wasn't going to do it for the rest of my life. I realized that I wanted something different. I knew categorically I wasn't going to be a fashion designer in my 40s and in my 50s. I probably hit that crisis slightly earlier, in that I'd started working much earlier. So I'd started my own little fashion label when I was 17. So at 26, I'd nearly 10 years in that game. And really realized that, I wanted a different challenge, and that's how Chupi was born.
Excellent. So as you mentioned there, since founded in 2013, you have grown at such a phenomenal pace, and you're delivering worldwide now. So what has been the main challenges facing female entrepreneurs?
It's really funny. So I'm now in the very fortunate position that I have had some incredible women help me along the way, phenomenal people who I would not be here without. And now I'm in the really amazing position of being able to give back. So I'm part of some brilliant networks. I'm part of Network Ireland, Going for Growth, Continuing the Momentum, the Growth Academy through IB, and I was just shortlisted for the Ernst & Young Entrepreneur of the Year, which means that I get to talk to brilliant people, but I also get to support brilliant people who are coming up. And I always think it's the number one question I get asked, which is, where's the money? Where's the grant? Where's the funding? Where's the finance? Where can I access it? How can I get it? And I have to say, there's nothing. It's a slightly grim way to put it, but actually there isn't. That was one of the biggest challenges. So I always think of it as in the challenge you think it will be when starting your own business. It's capital. How are you going to fund it? How are you going to finance it? We bootstrapped. Blood, sweat and tears. Sold enough jewelry to buy a printer. Sold enough. I distinctly remember the moment we sold enough pieces to be able to afford to hire someone. And I was one of my friends for a day and a half a week to pack boxes, to literally put things in boxes and send them out. And that was because we'd signed up a new store, and that store was paying us about €250 a week. And I knew that after our costs on that, we'd have enough money to cover a day and a half. So we scaled very, very slowly from that spare room into the international brand. And when people talk about it, they talk about money as being the greatest challenge, but actually scaling and growing a business, the biggest challenge is the path. And I always think there's kind of a little bit of a challenge in that we fetishize entrepreneurs. Like, entrepreneurship is this amazing, fantastic, brilliant thing. It is, it's great. But entrepreneurship, the brilliant people in businesses who grow and scale are just as powerful and as important. If I didn't value entrepreneurship, I would not value the 62 people who have chosen to entrust me with their lives, their futures, their hopes, their dreams, their homes, and their families. So valuing both is so important. And I think for both women, whether entrepreneur or intrapreneur, whether growing your career within a brilliant business or growing your brilliant business, the path is missing. It's the biggest thing we have. For ambitious women, for ambitious men, I think the path is a little simpler. You know, the stepping stones tend to exist. I know certainly as a very ambitious woman who wanted to grow and scale a business, from day one, I knew I wanted global and I knew I wanted big. 1 to 3, so getting from just me to having 2 more people in the business, getting 3 people in, it was tough, it was complicated, it was hard, it was full of fear. You know, hiring someone is very scary because you want to make sure that if you're asking someone to come work for you, that you're actually going to be able to pay them, you're going to be able to take care of them, that there's a future in this business. 3 to 10 was heartbreaking. Though I had no idea how to grow a business from 3 to 10 people. There's no business education in school. There's no career education in school. There's no path that takes you. You know, we talk about business as an optional subject, like as if the life skill of being able to open a bank account, you know, be able to do all those very basic, like manage a credit card, manage your bank balance, as if those are not essential life skills. So getting from 3 to 10 was unbelievably tough. 10 to 60 something, that was okay because there was a path. And so I think that's the biggest challenge. Finance, look, I've got some really good patronizing stories about the bank managers I've met along the route, one of whom, my favorite one actually, well, I've 2, but my current favorite one is 2 or 3 years ago, we were already in the multi-million, we were no longer insignificant, staff in a meeting with our bank manager who spoke only to my husband. My husband's a co-director on the company. My husband is our head of technology. He cannot count to save his life. He failed maths at leaving cert. He has no interest in the finances. But I had this feeling that our bank manager wasn't taking me seriously. And so our relationship manager. So I brought my husband in and sat there while he spoke to my husband. So look, that was a challenge. We now have a fantastic bank. We're brilliant. We're with AIB, can't recommend them enough. But yeah, finance is there, but path, how we take those steps, and the networks are part of, which is why I'm always happy to come and speak at something like this, because the networks are the things that will change your life. The women in your life will be the things that are the most powerful, the people who support you, who call you out when you're talking bullshit, and but support you on the days when you need it, and offer that network.
Brilliant. Wow. And I suppose as such a unique and a niche player in the market, how do you find competing with the bigger business brands?
Oh, I think social media has changed the game. You know, it's very, very different. So I started my first business, like I said, when I was 16, 17. So that makes it 20 years ago. I started a business pre-social media, which is crazy when you think about it, how embedded Facebook, Instagram, Twitter are in our lives now. TikTok, for those who, not me, like my team are like, you need to get on TikTok. I'm too old for TikTok. I'm hoping it'll go away and die like Snapchat did. I was really pleased when I didn't have to learn about Snapchat. But social media has leveled the playing field for micro businesses. So whilst we would consider ourselves, we're growing, we're still small at 60 people, you know, we're still a baby. But social media has meant, as a business, you don't have to talk to everyone in the room. You need to talk to everyone who loves what you love. Just the people. So put 100 people, 100 strangers in a room, maybe 5 of them will love what we make. Maybe 5 of them will love tiny, delicate jewelry, very personal. Do you like big, chunky? Do you like silver in statement? Do you like classic diamond? Are you Cartier? Are you Tiffany? Are you costume? I only need to talk to the 4 or 5 people in the room who love what I love. And social media has leveled the playing field. So the big guys are out there. They've got legacy problems. They are not agile. We can deliver beautiful things and beautiful experiences. So yeah, I welcome the competition. I like winning. And so I like to see what's out there. We love looking at what's happening and where, but social media has changed the game for small businesses.
Brilliant. I suppose just the last 18 months, every company has faced challenges, I suppose, with COVID, premises closing, shops, various lockdowns. And I suppose, how have you overcome the ever-changing customer landscape?
I was thinking that Yeats' quote of all change changed utterly describes the last 15 months, the year that we've had. We started 2020 with a really beautiful 3-year plan. We knew where we were going. We knew how we were going to get there, set our OKRs. So it's a management of objective key results about how our big North Star, what we wanted to achieve, what the things we were going to do. And the world ended on the 13th of March. We sent our team to work from home, and I haven't seen them all in one room since. And that huge sea change hit us like a tidal wave as a consumer business. So we have a beautiful physical store in Paris Townhouse off South William Street. We are also in 67 countries around the world. We were about to open our first pop-up shop in New York in spring 21. There was all these things on our roadmap. And instead, I actually remember I stand by our digital marketing manager. I feel like she was the quote of 2020 for me. She said, "We've long told people at Chupi that we are a digital first business, and we had to prove it." So we traded our first few weeks of April 2020, 95% down year on year. It was like a tornado hit the business because we lost all physical retail, and we had to figure out how to operate 100% remotely, 100% digitally, and deliver the year plus 51%, because we had to take what was a 3-year plan and even things that started in our 5-year plan and deliver them in months, like overnight. It just had to happen. Things like we have virtual appointments now, so you can dial in from anywhere in the world. And we have this gorgeous story actually of this absolute sweetheart. So he was booked to fly over to, so we used to have people fly from all over the world to come and try on their rings, and he was booked to fly into Ireland to buy his diamond for his beautiful girl, and got stuck in New Zealand in lockdown. So he was in New Zealand, she was London based, and she'd come over to meet his family for the very first time and stuck in lockdown in New Zealand, unable to get out. And he was obviously heartbroken because he had this beautiful proposal planned, and they were London based at the time. And so we set up a virtual appointment. So he dialed in on WhatsApp video, and we had literally like the world's most amateur setup, the phone like this on a little tripod, and then the diamond here so he could see it. And he chose the world's most beautiful 2-carat diamond. We DHL'd it out to him in 24 hours, and then we live proposed for him on Instagram. So he wrote the words to her of what the proposal was. I posted it, and honestly, I've never been more neurotic about time zones and like daylight savings time and where it's going to sit. And so anyway, we were all synced up for 8 a.m. on a Saturday morning, and I posted 8 a.m. Irish time, and she said yes. And that was for us. That happened in the first few weeks after lockdown. And for us, that was just that reminder. So now if you book a virtual appointment anywhere in the world with us, you sit, there's a whole full studio setup, it's lit, there's like fancy macro cameras and lenses, and that change is here to stay. So the innovations that have come with us are here. I think we have to be careful when we talk about back to normal. Normal has changed, and we just, take the things that are good and fix the things that are bad. But there's change has come.
Excellent. Chupi, thank you so much. It has been very informative. And so just before we head over to view our questions, so just to finish up, and before we head over, just review any questions with a quick Q&A session at the end. I'm just going to have a quick insight and just to show the gender gap between men and women in pensions. This is a huge interest for me personally, and also for Compass. So the importance for private funding a pension, it's just as important for men as it is for women. There was a time previously where women relied on their partners and on their husbands, but this has now changed. Women are now back to work, women are earning more, and women are taking control of their own assets. So the key to successful retirement planning is to replace your earned income with passive income. At retirement, your earned income will either cease or reduce dramatically. This earned income will be replaced then by passive income. And the most way to build your passive income pot, is by funding it now through a private pension. The government also offers huge incentives for workers to fund their own private pensions. Tax reliefs are available on contributions going into a pension. Your pension grows tax-free whilst invested, and there's also attractive tax incentives at drawdown stage. So we're all living a lot longer now than previous generations. However, our target retirement age remains the same. So we have 20 to 25 years of extra spending to fund in retirement with no earned income. It's also said that women are now living longer than men, hence another reason why it's just as important, if not more important for women to fund their private pensions. The cost of living will continue to increase throughout retirement. The main reason for this would be inflation. Healthcare may also be needed. And also families now are helping out financially their children. There's a lack of support from the state, and currently the state pension is only €13,000 per annum. So this is the recent report which was published by ESRI, and it just highlights the pension income per week between men and women. So at present, a man is roughly receiving €433 per week, while women are only receiving €280 per week. This is a gap of roughly 35%, and it's mainly driven by the funding of private pensions. So roughly 55% of men had contributed to private pensions while working, and only 28% of women had contributed to a private pension. I've looked into this, and there's no explanation or there's no reason for this huge gap. There are factors which have played some part in terms of it is usually the woman that may take a leave of absence throughout work, whether it be to stay at home with their children, but this shouldn't affect the huge gap of 35%. So just was something I wanted to draw our attention to today, and just to speak and to highlight is this huge gap between men and women in pensions. And I suppose if you want any more information, or if you like any further details on this, please let me know. You can send an email to Compass. So that finishes off today. And just having a quick look, we have some questions in today, so we won't be too long, but we can get them through. So the first one is Dearbhalla, I know you've previously worked in a large corporate scheme, and I've also heard you were a rising star whilst you were there. So I'm just wondering, how do you rate or compare the changes of working within these large corporate schemes to a self-employed entrepreneur? Sorry, one sec, Dearbhalla. You've been muted.
Quote of this, isn't it? You're on mute. I've been thinking of this, and it was interesting, Angela, when you were saying, what is that gap? And I left corporate. I worked with Jonathan Sheen in that early stage of career, and I set up my business as well, Chupi, in 2013. And in those early days, I had 4 children. I still have 4 children now. They were babies back in 2013, and pension at that stage was not so. Before I had my corporate, and that was all fine. We moved to the Middle East for a few years, and that allowed me to kind of step away from corporate and start planning what my own business was going to be. But in those early years, pension was not a priority, for me, because, you're getting the business up and running, and, the financials weren't there. So then as soon as it was, and it was busy and family and running a business and growing a business and all of that stuff. And then, as I came through those early years, then it was kind of that realization. And then, of course, you're getting a little bit older. That end bit is getting a little bit closer as well. And, that comes back into focus then, going, where am I now? And I need to make sure that I am, and I had bits, I'd moved around in different countries, etc. So I had bits everywhere in terms of little pension pots. And so really thinking of how do I bring this together now and focus on that longer piece. And I loved actually for myself, now and coming back, and then I work with Compass on that is a real focus for me now for the next 15 years or so, to make sure that that later stage, I know that I'll be working, so when we think about that later stage, there's an amount of time to be funded, but people will be working for longer as well. And so I think there's a few different ways to do that, but it's definitely come back. And then when I was, that 100-year life is really interesting as well. It's very clear that kind of early to mid 40s, that focus comes back onto, how am I providing, how have I provided, etc. for later on. So it's that ownership piece and responsibility. And to me, it's understandable, obviously, because I did it when it was busy to take the focus away, but now it's 100% there.
Just another question has come in. I suppose it's more focused around COVID, and how has it changed the dynamic within the office and versus working from home?
I can take that, Angela. I think it changed. I think it changed everything in a huge way. I think I guess what I feel as a leader and working alongside a brilliant group of people is that in a way we can't judge this as working from home. This is working in a pandemic. This is working in a crisis. This is not the same way when everyone is going to teach their children at home. That's not homeschooling. I was actually homeschooled myself, so I have a personal interest in it. But then my friend, the teacher, called it pandemic learning. And I thought that was a really fair way of positioning it. Likewise, this is not how working from home works. Like during working from home, you're not normally afraid for the people you love. You're not normally concerned about having to walk outside your door. You're not normally thinking about how you can get things delivered. So I think in one sense, it's been incredible. It's given us a glimpse of a society for a significant portion of us that working from home is incredible. You know, the productivity, the fabled work-life balance, which I have to say I haven't yet found. So if you do find it, send it my way. But that, like the loveliness of with my little girl, I get to hang out with her in the morning, and so we live very close to our studio and our offices. But I get to hang out with her instead of having to get up, get dressed, get on my high heels, and go and march to my event. I get to hang out with her in the morning before she's taken care of. And so there's been an amazing balance. But there's also huge challenges because we weren't set up for this and we weren't prepared. So I think I'd love to assess this in 18 months when hopefully our vaccine program rolls out, we will reach some level of normal where we are less afraid for the people we love and afraid for ourselves and our families. And we're able to build a better version of this because right now we've got working from home without any of the benefits, but also any of the celebration of community. I think for me, for our team, what we're all missing is community, being able to see each other, being able to have once a month even meetups. For us, our business is going to stay predominantly remote. There are certain roles, like our diamond team have to be on site and our store have to be on site, but for the majority of us, we'll stay remote. But 100% remote, I'm not sure. I think we're missing, conversation, community, togetherness, which whilst Zoom is a great facilitator, that meeting in person, the hug, the chats, the meetings, particularly collaborative meetings. Yeah, I can't wait I'd like a little bit more people in my life.
I suppose in a way you could say COVID actually, you know, if it was ever going to happen, it was a nice time for you personally, because being a new mom, that you were able to stay at home and spend time with, you know.
It was the best and the worst. I took 3 weeks maternity leave because it wasn't feasible. I had my daughter in the middle of June last year, at the same time as my company and the entire country was in a massive crisis. So whilst in a normal world, I might have taken a proper leave, and we really encourage our women and our men, and we are looking to match our maternity and paternity leave. So our goal is to get our dads capable of taking as much leave as our mums, because we want to build an equal world where it's not, childcare is not a women's issue, it's a family issue, and that it becomes so we're currently doing 13 weeks for the guys and 26 for our women, and the aim is we're going to match that by 25. But in my case, it was 3 weeks. So it was both the best and the worst. The work from home has been fantastic. But I have to say it's an intense time to have a baby in the midst of all of this. But I'm very lucky. She's a tiny, healthy little terror. So I couldn't ask for more.
Lovely. And Chupi, another question for yourself here is, what is the ultimate long-term goal for the business?
Oh, good question. 5 years. So ultimately, I guess if we're talking big picture, we're building an intergenerational business that will be here in 100 years. The pieces we make will be around for hundreds of years to come. So when you think about a diamond ring, you are, this is the ring that I got when my husband and I celebrated our 20 years. So we're together since we're kids. So we celebrated being 20 years together. And that was the ring. And one day that will be my daughter's, and that will one day hopefully be her daughter's, and so on. And so we make pieces that are for those big moments that will be there forever. And so the goal with the business, we're not building to sell, we're building to scale. So the goal is based in Ireland. We will be global. 50 million is the 5-year goal on what we're targeting. And then, long term is intergenerational, creating something that will be here, that will create value. I think one of the big things for me, I'm sure you remember 2013, that was our official year, was in that build up of how miserable Ireland was, but how unhappy and heartbroken it felt, like such a terrible place to be. I remember the immortal phrase, we all partied. Well, I certainly felt resentful about that. I was like, get away from me. Not, as a generation being told that we, so many people were choosing to leave, and we were all told we'd all partied too much. I think a huge ambition for us at Chupi is to create jobs worth working for. So, it's brilliant. Lots of people work for the big tech companies. Our goal is to steal them. We've recently hired out of Amazon, we've hired out of Facebook, hired out of Google. Our job is to create an Irish business, an Irish brand that you're proud to work for. We're a technology first business, but that also has that heritage. So just a few things to do.
no time like the present to get working on those goals.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Here, there's just a question for yourself here. How much of one's time should be spent on education, training, and CPD? That's
How much? That's really interesting. And one thing from COVID actually that I have found is in January, personally, I got a little bit overwhelmed because a huge advantage is everything is suddenly accessible. You can do a course in Harvard, through Zoom. So suddenly there's all of this CPD available. For me, it's really about keeping an eye on what's next. 5 years from now, where do you want to be? What do you want to be doing? And moving past just kind of the technical, functional pieces of knowledge and learning. But is it personal development? So I don't think that there's an answer, but I certainly think we should keep it as part of the equation. How are we continuing to evolve? As adults, investing in, maybe it's knowledge at one stage, digital marketing, especially a lot of women who maybe have stopped working for a few years go, I want to come back. I always say start with digital marketing because that's part of everything. Even now, I don't know, Chupi, you were saying about Snapchat, there's a bit of, oh God, how do you keep up with stories, So there's always a constant investment and looking. I always like to think of where do I want to be 5 years down the line? So what do I need to be doing and investing in now to keep myself, current and evolving, because things are moving at such pace. So I'm going to say an amount of time, and then it's up to passion, purpose, all of those things. But keep an eye on your own development and own your own development.
brilliant.
I think for me, Angela, it's balancing it. It's ensuring that you're learning enough, but not learning too much. You can almost get addicted to that CPD piece and feel like you have to constantly be learning. But if you don't take a gap in between, so for me, I do a significant 6-month professional development course every second year. And I find that although in theory I could do them back to back, actually I really benefit from taking on a huge program, taking a year's break, taking on a huge program, taking on a year's break. And then I do smaller continuous pieces. But you couldn't do a master's back to back to back. And so thinking about that smaller education is so powerful. Like Dearbhalla, what it does for you, that's our key to unlocking the future. But do not set the expectation that you have to be constantly, every week does not have to be what are you learning this week. I had a friend who said someone was asking him what he learned during lockdown, and he was like, I stayed alive. I'm alive. My husband is alive. We fed ourselves and we kept ourselves whole. There is pressure at the moment to go and come out learning, speaking French and Mandarin, having completed your MBA. That might not be feasible. Realistic expectations in right now, particularly.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely. I suppose just to highlight as well, while studying and continuing to learn, it is important to continue to have fun as well, and just a work-life balance.
And be kind to yourself.
Absolutely. I'm just conscious of the time now, so we're just coming up to 11 now, and we had said 45 minutes. So I just want to thank you both again for joining us. It was lovely. I can't thank you enough. It was brilliant, and you both contributed to a hugely successful, our first Women in Business event. So I'm delighted, and thank you again for joining us.
My pleasure.
Welcome. Thanks,
Thanks for having us.
Excellent. Well, thank you again. See you soon.
A pleasure.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.